Good morning. Welcome to another fresh edition of your favorite program on leadership television inside Nigeria. Today is September 18, 2025. And of course, my name is Winifred Weber, your host on the program. Today is September 18, 2025. Of course, as expected, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu made announcement yesterday reinstating Similaye Fubara as governor of Rivers State after the emergency 6 months emergency rule terminated yesterday. And of course, all the national papers are leading with that same story today. We'll start off with Leadership newspaper, the nation's most influential. Leadership's leading story says reactions as Tinubu ends emergency rule in Rivers. Fubara, Deputy Governor, Assembly members resume duties today. Leading story on leadership this Thursday, September 18, 2025. And of course, the other papers we have on our lineup. We are going to be having our Rivers State correspondent who is right there in Rivers State to give us on-the-spot assessment of what the mood is like in Port Harcourt. However, before he does that, let's conclude with other leading stories on Leadership newspaper. Government spends 330 billion naira on social safety nets in 9 months. That story is on page 28 of Leadership. Government spends 330 billion naira on social safety nets in 9 months. Nigeria reintroduces history as compulsory subject. Atiku will be deepening consultations ahead of 2027. Anti-graft agency blames Yahoo boys for stricter visa rules on Nigerians. The story is on page 7 of Leadership. Anti-graft agency blames Yahoo boys for stricter visa rules on Nigerians. 60% score credit in maths English as exam body releases 2025 SSCE results. Abuja resident doctor strike forces consultant to work 36 hours. That story continues on page 25 of Leadership. We move towards the masthead of Leadership. Bandits demand schools, hospitals, grazing reserve, Katsina government. Bandits demand schools, hospitals, grazing reserve, Katsina government. Of course, it's no longer news that the Katsina government actually met with in order to broker truce with bandits in the state. And of course, the outcome of that truce is that the bandits are demanding schools, hospitals, and grazing reserve. This is coming from the Katsina state government, and it continues on page 4 of Leadership. We go to the business boss of Leadership on the cover today, and it says federal government states orders share 2.225 trillion naira August revenue. Perhaps we'll just take some excerpts from that business story. The Federation Account Allocation Committee, FAC, at the September 2025 meeting chaired by the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, allocated 2.225 trillion naira to the 3 tiers of government as Federation allocation for August 2025 from a gross total of 3.635 trillion naira. From the stated amount, inclusive of gross statutory revenue, value-added tax, VAT, electronic money transfer levy, and exchange rate gain, the federal government received 810,047 billion naira. The states got 709,831 billion naira, and local government areas got 522.228 billion naira, while oil-producing states were given 183.0.12 trillion as derivation. That is 13% of mineral revenue. The story continues on page 7 of Leadership. Federal government states others share 2.225 trillion naira August revenue. And that takes us to the stories above the masthead of Leadership newspaper. Saudi Arabia releases 3 Nigerian pilgrims wrongly accused of drug trafficking. And lastly on the cover, 2 FIRS assistant directors, 2 managers die in Lagos fire. This is the aftermath of the fire that gutted a building in Lagos a few days ago, and of course they were being treated in the hospital. Unfortunately, we just yesterday there was report of the demise of 2 FIROS assistant directors, 2 managers who died in that inferno. May the souls of the departed rest in peace. From that, we'll move to the page 3 of Leadership today, where we have our stand, a permanent page in Leadership. And today's stand is on need for transparency in voter registration. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, recently embarked on a nationwide continuous voter registration exercise INEC's online pre-registration portal, which is built to last for a year, was launched on August 18, 2025, with in-person registration following on August 25. Within the first week, 1,379,342 Nigerians had pre-registered online, with Osun State recording the highest number of prospective voters at 393,269, followed by Lagos State with 222,205, and the Federal Capital Territory with 107,682. However, the registration figure, as disclosed by INEC, has continued to generate controversies and crises across the nation, with many Nigerians, including opposition and civil society organizations, describing the figures as an attempt to rig and manipulate 2027 elections ahead. We go towards the conclusion of that stand. It says, to correct this, in our opinion, election rigging has had far-reaching consequences on the nation, with bad leaders emerging who display lack of empathy, accountability, integrity, and vision, characterized by poor communication, dishonesty, self-centeredness, and the inability to make sound, decisive choices. To correct this anomaly, therefore, there is a need to make the electoral system transparent and credible, to ensure that only the choices of the people are actually elected into electable political offices. So they stand from leadership newspaper, need for transparency in voter registration. From this stand, we go over to the back page of the paper, where we have Being Blunt with Muazu Elize. Today, Muazu is writing on murder at Kano Hospital. Murder at Kano Hospital. Quote from the column says, these three Nigerians entered a hospital in search of health and life, but they were left with neither. Quote from today's back page column with Muazu Elize, Being Blunt. Today's writing on murder at Kano Hospital. Before we leave the back page, let's visit Ghana Must Go. On the news, Ibas, that is the sole administrator for Rivers State emergency rule, which terminated today. It says Rivers emergency rule a necessity. And of course, Ghana Must Go answered, cashed out. Ibas, is that true? Well, that concludes the review of Leadership newspaper this Thursday. For more, don't forget to log into the website of Leadership newspaper. We move to the next paper we have on our lineup, still on the termination of the emergency rule in Rivers State today. And of course, we'll take Vanguard. Vanguard says excitement as Tinubu ends emergency rule in Rivers State. Perhaps we have our virtual leadership analyst joining us, Anayo Onukuga. Are you there? Okay. Before he joins us, let's take the review of Vanguard newspaper. Vanguard says excitement as Tinubu ends emergency rule in Rivers, restores Fubara deputy lawmakers. The Vanguard's leading story has so many kickers beneath it. Let's take it one by one. Says peace has returned. Deputy governor returns. So residents await governor Ibas. Wike hates Tinubu for saving Rivers. Pandev calls for sober reflection. Roller drums for celebration. INC urges residents. Tinubu must apologize for Rivers overreach. PDP. Fubara's next move unclear. Rivers APC woos governor with top offer. Ibas aides protest unpaid allowances. Government house calm. Igbini Koewubo. Ibas aid. Ibas date with history is quite much for the riders beneath the leading story today on Vanguard newspaper. Excitement as Tinubu ends emergency rule in Rivers. But we have a guest. We are queuing in our guest. Our second guest is my good morning. Ismail Idris is a public affairs analyst. Of course, we have him to join us virtual to talk more on today's leading stories in all the papers as Fubara returns to Rivers State Government House.
Can you hear us?
Good morning, Ismail. Yeah, we're having some technical glitches, but before we rectify that, let's continue with review of front headline stories on Vanguard newspaper. Aviation, Nigeria to receive first dry lease after almost 20 years, coming from the Minister of Aviation, Keyamo. Aviation, Nigeria to receive first dry lease after almost 20 years. 60.26% of candidates score credit passes in English, Maths. NECO releases results. ACF forced unopposed APC ticket for Tinubu. Anti-Trump protests rock London over president's visit. Nigeria, UK, 16 trillion naira current trade value, highest ever, coming from the High Commissioner. And in sports, Tokyo 2025, Nathaniel breaks Amike's 38-year-old record, zooms into 400 meters hurdles final. Congratulations to Nigeria. Tokyo 2025, Nathaniel breaks Amike's 38-year-old record, zooms into 400-meter hurdles final. From there, we'll move to the stories above the masthead of Vanguard. Federal government pays out 330 billion naira cash transfers to poor Nigerians, coming from Edo. 4 states was hit by ozone layer radiation. NECO 2025, Kano tops national performance charts. NECO 2025, Kano tops national performance chart as Governor Yusuf's education reforms bear fruits. This is a good one, of course. For the first time in history, Kano is topping the national performance chart of NECO. And we earlier read that 60% of Nigerians, of candidates, score credit in maths and English as the NECO releases 2025 results. Dangote Refinery says we stand by our statement on DAPMAN. Dangote Refinery says marketers demanded 1.505 trillion naira subsidy. And that concludes the review of front headline stories on Vanguard newspaper this Thursday. For more, log into www.vanguardngr.com. We move ahead to the next paper on our lineup. Same leading story on today's Rivers State lifting of emergency rule. The Punch newspaper says emergency rule, winners, losers as Tinubu reinstates Fubara. President justifies action as over 40 court cases pending, cautions governors on good governance. Wike says that FCT Minister Rivers will henceforth witness peace, progress. And Rivers Elders lament, says 6 months wasted. Emergency rule, winners, losers as Tinubu reinstates Fubara. President justifies action as over 40 court cases pending, cautions governors on good governance. Wike, Rivers will henceforth witness peace, progress. 6 months wasted, Rivers Elders lament. Beneath the leading story on the Punch this Thursday, we have the picture of President Donald Trump in visit to the British monarch King Charles yesterday. Thousands protest in London over Trump UK visit. Of course, BBC has it that some of the protesters were arrested. Beneath that, federal government returns history to basic school curriculum, just like we have on leadership this Thursday. Federal government returns history to basic school curriculum. 7 victims confirmed killed in Lagos building fire. Federal government votes 300 billion naira to power teaching hospitals, varsities. Beside the masthead of the Punch, SSCE, NECO proves mass cheating in 13 states. Above the masthead, federal government, states, local governments shared 2.2 trillion naira August revenue. Fact, and that is also the business story on the cover of leadership. Cash transfer, federal government pays 330 billion naira to 8.1 million households. Lastly, on the cover of the Punch, UK-Nigeria bilateral trade hits 16 trillion naira, according to the British envoy. That concludes the review of front headline stories on the Punch this Thursday. For more, log into the website of the Punch newspaper. We move ahead to the next paper we have on our lineup, all about emergency rules and in Rivers State. And of course, the next paper on our lineup is The Guardian. The Guardian says doubts uncertainty, Rivers power tussle as Fubara returns. Doubts uncertainty, Rivers power tussle as Fubara returns. The story runs on page 6 of the paper. And of course, we have the picture of the, will I say, gladiators underneath that leading story. We have President Bola Tinubu, the Ibas. We have Fubara and the lawmaker and the House of Assembly Speaker. Federal government says 330 billion naira disbursed in cash transfers to poor households. Over 60% of candidates passed 2025 SSCE with 5 credits above. Traders count losses as UBA more staff lost in Lagos fire. NECA urges strategic monetary policy easing as IMPI projects 17% inflation by year end. Anambra Guba, played by Ruse Ohaneze Soludo Ukachukwu Ekunife. That story is on page 28 of The Guardian. Anambra Guba, played by Ruse Ohaneze Soludo Ukachukwu Ekunife. That is also stories beneath the masthead of The Guardian. Dapman Dangote Bika over diversion allegation, 1.5 trillion naira subsidy demands. Ondo poll, Supreme Court dismisses appeal against Ayedatiwa's victory. World Patient Safety Day, Lagos State Government bemoans wastage in healthcare delivery. And that also concludes review of front headline stories on The Guardian this Thursday. For more, log into www.guardian.ng. From The Guardian, we move to the last paper we have on our lineup this Thursday, and that is Nigerian Tribune. Nigerian Tribune is not left out with the same leading story as with other papers. Rivers emergency rule, Tinubu returns Fubara after 6-month suspension. Says over 40 cases were instituted against the proclamation. Mixed reactions in Rivers. Government motorbike storm baptism ceremony in Niger Republic, key 22. Government on motorbike storm baptism ceremony in Niger Republic, key 22. That was a trendy story internationally yesterday because the story was on BBC. I'm not joining AGC coming from Adeleke, the Osun State Governor. Ondo PDP candidate Agbola withdraws Supreme Court appeal against Ayedatiwa. MBS report proof of our investment in agriculture. Oyebanji. 2027, despite endorsement, Tinubu must emerge at convention. Yiwada, APC National Chairman, denies INEC's claim of early campaign, says ADC not an organized opposition. 60.26% of NECO candidates obtained 5 credit passes, include Maths English. Results of 3,878 candidates withheld over exam malpractice. Still on Nigerian Tribune, we go over the masthead. Afriland Towers fire. FIRS mourns death of 4 staffers as Elumelu pays tribute to fallen UBA staffers. Saudi authorities free 3 Nigerian pilgrims arrested for drug trafficking. And that concludes the review of front headline stories on the Nigerian Tribune this Thursday. For more, log into the website of leadership of it. Okay. We'll be playing a video on a developing story in the country. Don't go away. Stay tuned.
edition with Barrister Deji Adeyanju.
Yes, you're welcome back. In case you're just joining us, the program is Inside Nigeria. We're welcome back to the second half of the program, where we'll have discussions on some of the trending issues. Like I mentioned earlier, during our first review, newspaper review, we had national papers reporting the lifting of the emergency rule in Rivers State today, where Fubara has taken over the reins of his government after 6 months outside suspension, so to speak. My name is Winifred Weber. Once again, of course, we have a public affairs analyst who will be joining us virtual, Ismail Idris. Good morning, Ismail. Good morning. We are experiencing some technical glitches, but before he joins us, we also have a video. It's also a reaction to the trending story. It's no longer news that the DSS actually took Sowore, Omoyele Sowore, the activist and also presidential candidate in the 2023 election, to court over his what DSS claim is defamatory remarks against President Bola Tinubu. Apart from besides Omoyele Sowore, the DSS also took X and Meta to court because Sowore actually made those remarks on the platform of those social networks. In an interview with Deji Adeyanju, Leadership Studio sought his views on these trending stories. We are going to be having that report soonest.
With Barrister Deji Adeyanju, an Abuja-based lawyer and human rights activist.
Thank you very much for having me. About being a lawyer, of course, but a political activist, I doubt much.
You doubt much?
Yeah, but
I'm incorrect.
I'm excited to be on this platform.
Maybe human rights activist.
Thank you. Something more like that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's been, months of chasing you, but thank God we have you today. Now, let's start
Pleasure is all mine.
Thank you so much. State of the nation. Very, very broad, but, for want of time, in your own estimation, what is the state of the nation under President Bola Tinubu?
The country is heading south, no doubt. Anyone that says anything to the contrary is being economical with the truth. The economy completely has tanked. The policies are extremely bad. They are not working. The president came in very courageously and boldly, and many Nigerians commended him for his bold strike, but the bold strike have turned out to be very, very inimical to the growth of the nation. The president took away fuel subsidy, the only thing cushioning the economy of our nation. And he decided to subsidize the expensive lifestyle of politicians and governors.
At the expense of the poor.
At the expense of the poor. The poor people, the only thing that they benefit was subsidy. He took it and now subsidizing the governors. The governors are so rich that they change dollar at the end of every month and further put more pressure on our economy. Our economy that is already dollar dependent. That is why the governors are the only one enjoying dividends of democracy. That is why they are all defecting to APC.
No, Barrister, let me cut you short. They said why the subsidy regime was on, we are living a fake life, and it was not sustainable. Do you think removing the subsidy was actually a bad idea, or maybe the approach was wrong?
There's no nation in the world that does not subsidize. There's no nation. America, UK, all over, world over, nations subsidize. Why are you subsidizing? The reason why you're subsidizing is because your economy is either too weak or the purchasing power is weak. Therefore, you need to cushion the effect of inflation and things that are likely to affect the poor people, and there are always the downtrodden. Exactly. Even during the time of the prophets, the downtrodden were with us.
Fingers were never equal.
Yeah, so there can never be an exception to the rule when it comes to the issue of Nigeria. The money that's been saved from subsidy, where is it? It has been stolen by the governors. In fact, there were more projects when there was subsidy in the state than now that they now have quadrupled the money that is saved from subsidy. And that is why I also laugh when I see the government saying they need more money and they now want to tax Nigerians to death. That our problem is not lack of funds, it's lack of accountability. We do not have a financial problem in quotes in Nigeria. What we have in Nigeria is an accountability problem.
Financial management, probably.
Yes, indeed.
So your friend and ally, Omoyele Sowore, is in the eye of the storm again.
Yes, indeed.
For calling the president or describing the president in an unprintable words.
A criminal. You call the president a criminal.
Is that right?
Well,
was that right?
He's entitled to his opinion. He's expressing his opinion. You cannot criticize the man's opinion.
Was his opinion right? Or is his opinion right?
Listen, universally, presidents have been called all sorts of names. Barack Obama was called...
In other crimes.
Yeah, Barack Obama was called a terrorist, multiply,
in
criminal.
In U.S.
George W. Bush was called a criminal.
In U.S.
Yes.
That climb.
Donald Trump was called a corrupt criminal.
In another climb.
The Queen is called similar name.
In UK.
The British Prime Minister.
Now,
the President of France was slapped.
Do we have the same...
Now, let me tell you the beauty of democracy.
Ecosystem.
The beauty... Okay, are we not pretending to be practicing democracy?
Of course.
So why are we worried? And the DSS, criminal deformation of civil is personal. Cannot be transferred by Bluetooth. The DSS cannot inherit the injury, that personal injury.
Inflicted on President Tinubu.
Yes, that personal injury. Hold on.
They cited national security.
Hold on. We've been hearing national security since the time of Abacha. National security was used to kill people who struggle get friends with people in this country. National security. National security is what they used to steal money. National Assembly. We are tired of this national security bullshit. What we are saying is that the so-called personal injury suffered from calling Tinubu a criminal cannot be transferable. The DSS cannot inherit the injury. That the attempt for the DSS to charge Omoyele Sowore, who is a presidential candidate who contested against Tinubu, because the ingredients of defamation is that there must not be malice.
All right.
So what is the malice in people who contested election all over the world? When Barack Obama was president of the United States of America and Donald Trump wanted to take over, was challenging him, there was no name that Donald Trump did not call Barack Obama. Barack Obama did not sue him.
I don't believe you have the same client.
Hold on. This Tinubu called Jonathan unprintable name. There's no name. This Tinubu didn't call Jonathan when he was in opposition. So what has changed? Okay. Oh, now suddenly he's found himself in the kitchen. He no longer likes the heat.
Okay, let's look at it from this perspective. Sowore actually made that statement aftermath of Tinubu's outing in Brazil.
Yes, indeed.
Where he said he has eliminated corruption in Nigeria.
Yes.
But I think the president actually made a mistake. The aides corrected the statement. That what the president meant was he has eliminated corruption in the forex, in the money market, in the forex market. Now, forex market and Nigeria are not the same. Nigeria is the whole country. Forex market is just a subsector of the economy. Now, he said, we don't need to know the CBN governor before we can access dollar. It could be true, maybe not. Is that enough to call the president with that name? Is that
Sowore is entitled to his opinion. And there are things I don't even want to go there because of censorship for you. This president, didn't he make a forfeiture in the US?
That has been taken care of by the Presidential Election Tribunal. The Supreme Court.
So people cannot run opinions.
I thought they said it was irrelevant to his election.
Okay, so people cannot run opinions as a result of his forfeiture of $460,000.
I don't think that is right. People should be allowed...
That the Illinois court
forfeiture
claim were from drug trafficking.
Yes.
So what are you talking about? See, anyway...
And it's in our memory.
Anyway,
to talk about
anyway, let me tell you something very simple.
Yeah.
That we cannot wait to get to court with the DSS. We cannot wait to have President
Tinubu. Will you be part of
yes, of course.
No, there are two cases.
I'm part of all the legal team.
Okay, there are two cases.
So very simple. We cannot wait to have President Tinubu in the dock to come and tell us how he was defamed.
Do you think we will win this case under the present circumstance?
Listen, there's no way that the DSS and now become the injured party. There's no way.
They should be more concerned about security matter.
Listen.
Not personal thing
Nigeria is
inflicted on Tinubu.
Nigeria is a country where a bandit leader who has killed terrorized people come on national television and is issuing further threats.
And nothing happened.
But nobody, DSS is not interested.
2 days ago in Katsina,
yes, that's what I'm referring to.
And nothing
that's
happened.
what I'm referring to. And you have the temerity to say you want to charge a money whatever for expressing his view. And the courts, severally in Bakare and Ishola, and also Ibiana and Uba, have said that verbal abuse, vulgar abuse, does not amount to defamation. For instance, if I say you're a madman, if I say, Bode, you're a madman, in anger, I say, Bode, you're a thief, you're a criminal, the courts have held that it's not defamation. And like I've said,
you have not defamed me by calling me a thief.
I have not. Verbal abuse. You are stupid, how can that be?
So it remain there.
Verbal abuse. That's defamation. For
do you expect President Tinubu to also call Sowore criminal?
You can call him anything. His opinion. After all, they contested against each other.
But there are people who believe Sowore is doing all this because he's a U.S. citizen. Do you believe in that assertion?
Sowore is not even a U.S. citizen,
so
unfortunately.
It's a lie.
His family lives
doesn't have dual citizenship?
He doesn't. His family lives in the U.S. He has never taken U.S. citizenship. Or you can go on. Anyway, you can always interview him. You know, Putin
thrive in Nigeria very well because of the way we use social media.
Well, you see, people are entitled to their opinion, and that's what the Constitution has guaranteed. The Constitution has re-emphasized again and again that the issue freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, and also freedom to impact and receive information. So, by the time you begin to curtail people's rights via DSS and police and all this, it is harassment implicit, no matter how you try to sugarcoat or color it. What we are witnessing in Nigeria, which is very regrettable and unfortunate, is that we now have an atmosphere of fear in the country where freedom before speech is guaranteed. But freedom after speech is not guaranteed, and it's really a sad one. And journalists have not been left out of this madness.
Exactly.
In just the preceding weeks, we've had a lot of journalists have been arrested and detained.
There was a Kebbi incident.
Kebbi, Kwara, all over the place, and this is a government that criticized military. They joined Nadeko. Some of them even claim they were in exile. But look at what they are doing today.
Establish a radio station, legal radio station.
Exactly. So look at what they are doing today.
Well, it's
very regrettable
and
unfortunate indeed.
It was nice speaking to you, Barrister Deji.
Pleasure is always mine.
We hope whenever we also seek to
yes,
have you,
indeed.
You'll be available.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, viewers, for watching us. And this has been the whole package. It's bye for now.
Yes, you're welcome back. I hope you had a short time listening to that interview with Deji Adeyabu, a barrister, by the way. However, this is on the heels of the developing story that the Nigerian National Committee of the International Press Institute, IPI, did raise some concerns over a few days ago over the recent cases of media reprehension in Nigeria. And a few days later, DSS actually took Omoyele Sowore to court over what they termed as his inflammatory remarks on social media networks, including Meta and X. Well, that brings to a close that special report with Deji Adeyanju. We move ahead to the trending story. Like we mentioned earlier, Fubara has been reinstated as governor of Rivers State after 6 months suspension. We want to find out what is happening in Rivers as we speak. Anayo Nukega is on the spot to give us on-the-spot assessment of the situation in Port Harcourt, Rivers State capital. Let's have the video. could see it from the video that the whole of Port Harcourt is agog with Fubara's return as governor of Rivers State. We just saw the whole horde of crowd at the government house entrance. Like President Bola Tinubu advised Fubara, he says, let peace drive your actions. He told Fubara and the lawmakers while hailing stakeholders' understanding of extraordinary measures. That brings to a close today's Inside Nigeria. Of course, the paper celebrated the return of Fubara's coming into office after 6 months suspension. Congratulations to the governor for coming back. It's on this note we bring to a close today's Inside Nigeria. My name is Winifred Ugwebo. Don't forget to join us on this same station for another fresh edition of the program tomorrow, and also on this station for news on the hour. Thanks for joining us once again.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.